Right, next up is Guy Taylor. Yay! So this is hopefully going to be a really good combination of hard-hitting stuff and also some light relief, I've been told. Yes, good. So Guy inherited millions of pounds worth of property, and of course the establishment have been trying to take it off him ever since. He is at the front line. He is most certainly fighting the system, and he's been stopping evictions all over the country with Roger Hayes. So I'd like to, introduce him. Give him a warm round of applause, please. Right, next up is Guy Taylor. Yay! So this is hopefully going to be a really good combination of hard-hitting stuff and also some light relief, I've been told. Yes, good. So Guy inherited millions of pounds worth of property, and of course the establishment have been trying to take it off him ever since. He is at the front line. He is most certainly fighting the system, and he's been stopping evictions all over the country with Roger Hayes. So I'd like to, introduce him. Give him a warm round of applause, please. Sorry, and his lovely assistant too.
Yeah, Linda's the hand at my back, okay? So, I'm just a puppet, really. But so, what I'd like to say is, thank you all for being here today. And the last time I was at a British Constitution Group meeting was 3 years ago. And how much has changed during our personal journey and on the national journey, on the world's journey, on all these things. Back 3 years ago, I was looking at things because I could see they were coming at me and coming at everybody else, and it wasn't morally right, and it wasn't constitutionally right. But of course, that wasn't holding no water, and they still kept coming and trying to steamroller us on everything they did. So now, in the last 12 months, I met Mr. Ebert, who's written a book called The Forensics of Legal Fraud, which I'd suggest everybody read. Mr. Ebert in the 1990s was a billionaire. He's a Jewish guy who owned 1,200 properties in Liverpool alone that got taken from him. And of course, he's been fighting the system for 18 years. But as with most of us, what they do is, if they pick on you and then rob you, they then make you look, when you're the victim, you're just a bitter and twisted person trying to fight. Oh, God, you lost that? He's just bitter and twisted. Of course, this guy's been diligently fighting away and looking at every single thing that they've done against him. And he's written this book called The Forensics of Legal Fraud. And I'd suggest everybody read that because it will give you a different insight to what's going on. I initially started off, and because I'm quite fiery and because of my previous history, I was going into court. And again, I've been in court doing 5 years as a younger naughty boy and looking at another 10 years. And I've been to cases at the Old Bailey where I've had a 2-month trial. I didn't really fear the civil courts because I thought, I didn't really understand what they were about back then. And of course, I've learned a lot since, but it was very much like going and taking a backgammon board to a chess match. I was going in there, I was shouting out about my human rights being abused and about the common law and everything else. Nobody's taking any notice, and they were steamrolling me. Well, what Mr. Ebert's taught me to look at is their own system. And this is where we have the remedy. And I feel I've got the remedy, and I'd like to give it to everybody else. Because ultimately, we know we're correct when we stand under common law. This is a common law jurisdiction. But they still keep coming at us and ignoring everything. And if you notice on the court forms, they'll tick any human rights issues, and the claimant will tick no, hasn't asked you. And this machine keeps rolling against you. Well, ultimately, we take their documentation and their fight to them. Because if they can't support the merit in their position, then they have nothing. So that's what we've been doing for the last year. And I've got a lot of personal stuff, which I can tell by a lot of people I've spoken to today. A lot of people are aware of my personal stuff. Anyone who isn't, can always go and investigate it. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of my personal stuff. I've got claims against me from banks. I've taken out private criminal prosecutions, which I've been fighting to get because I realized a long time ago that, many years ago, that private criminal prosecutions were going to be our solution to this. Because anyone who operates as an actor has to operate inside the boundaries afforded them by the legislation attached to their acting capacity. So if you're a police officer, you're only a police officer if you're operating inside the boundaries afforded you by legislation attached to a police officer. Anything else you do, you're operating in your own personal private capacity and can be addressed as such. So that's what I've been doing. And of course, it's taken me 2 or 3 years, and with the help of other people around the country, like Michael Doherty, who's been very successful at it, we've started to get results, and we've started to get private criminal prosecutions through against individuals. I'm not going to go on about a lot of that today, and I'm around if anyone wants to talk to me about it. But we've had success at that, and so I've ultimately charged 2 bailiffs from British Gas with burglary, and senior bailiffs, and they were charged with burglary. And I've now got one against UK Evict, which is a company, and the head bailiff of that company, or the director of that company, is now charged with assaulting me. And that is because a group of bailiffs and police, like 70 in number, removed me from a family home, a property that my father bought for cash back in the 80s. And they removed me, helicopter, 70 of them. They removed me based on a fraudulent instrument. And that's what I'd like to be telling you about, the fraudulent instrument. And the fact that we've all been ignorant of these fraudulent instruments. And the moment they touched hands and removed me from the premises meant that they had no mitigating circumstances for what they did, and ultimately it was an assault. So we've got them on liability for all these things, and that's what we've really got to look at, because everyone operating in any acting capacity, if you're a police officer, or if you're a parking official, or if you're whatever, you're operating inside the boundaries afforded you by the legislative capacity of that job. The moment you do something else, you're no longer a police officer. You're no longer a traffic warden. If a police officer came in here because a crime's been reported and just decided to steal this computer, the moment he picked it up and put it in his bag, he wouldn't be a police officer. He would be him. PC Chris Smith would be Chris Smith and charged as such, because they can't operate outside those boundaries. And of course, attached to that is professional indemnity and a lot of complicated issues, which a lot of us all over this country have been dealing with for many, many years. And, you know, I know I'm probably talking to the converted here, so a lot of people know what I'm talking about. But for anyone who doesn't, there are a lot of people who do, and we're working on everyone's behalf, and we have been for a long time. So we don't need to go down those roads at this moment. All right? So what we'll deal with first and foremost is, hand up the back, what is it? Yeah, okay, the courts. Right, let me elaborate on what I've said. So when I met Mr. Ebert knows chapter and verse. He's probably, because he wrote the book, The Forensics of Legal Fraud, he is an expert in that subject. And his first priority is bankruptcies. All bankruptcies, if any of you haven't consented to a bankruptcy, it's fraudulent. We can prove it to you. And then possession. So possession orders for your properties. And we haven't come across a legitimate one in 20 years of his study. And I'm only a student of Mr. Ebert's, but I can tell you I haven't seen a legitimate document since. And again, I'm only a student of Mr. Ebert's in that, okay? So what we've done is we started taking Mr. Ebert trained me to look at their rules and regulations, because ultimately, if someone's coming at you for something, if you've got some guy claiming that with a gang of police supporting him because they're just there to keep the peace, yeah, that you should give him the keys of your property, that's fine. Then he's executing on you a statutory instrument, claiming it to be from a court. Whatever that statutory instrument is, you require to see. Because you're not going to just hand him the keys to your property, are you? You know, who'd do that? Who'd be a mug, right? Now, they won't hand that document over nowadays. And if you watch on YouTube, because this information has been going around for the last 6 months, they go like this. They will not hand it over. Because what they've done, the government think they own all our property. Right? That's what they think. And that's why there's only ever possession hearings in court. It's not ownership, it's possession. Well, hang on. Possession, it may be 9/10 of the law, but it doesn't explain who owns the property. I might own a property and rent it to Justin or someone, and we have a dispute. So I then want to possess that property. So I take out a possession order. Well, if the judge believes Justin and not me or whatever, it doesn't mean he then owns the property. I'm still the owner. He's just in possession. And that's a black hole for them, a big black hole. But they're not going to tell you that the Crown own everything, because you'd stop paying your mortgage. Why would you pay your mortgage if they own everything? That's exactly what's going on. So what we've done is this, and we've got a system now, one page. And again, I'm not very technically conversant, right? But that page is what we've been getting people to go into court with. And it's a request and notice. Now, we're using their own rules and their own regulations for this, because ultimately the civil court process is only there, not because it's the law. You haven't caused harm, you haven't caused injury, you haven't caused loss, and you haven't committed fraud in your contracts. It's there based on public confidence. Public confidence is what supports the rules and regulations, not the law. It's public confidence. Nothing else. You know, it's not sensible to drive down that road at 100 miles an hour. It's not actually against the law, but it's not. But we support rules and regulations to support that position. And it's very much, I say, like, if we were on a desert island, say there was a lot of, we met a native tribe, and we went on the desert island, us lot, and the world had a nuclear holocaust, and we went to this desert island, and this tribe didn't know anything about law, and we want to teach them the law, and we know all about the law. Well, how do we explain it to them? Well, what we'd do is we'd operate a process and procedure. Maybe we put 6 boxes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and we put them down. And what we say is, when you make your claim, it goes in that box, then it gets moved to that box. And we make it so the process and procedure is all correct. And if at any time they want to come and examine that process and procedure, they can come and open the box and, they don't know about what's going on. That's too complicated for them. That's why we pay lawyers £300 or £400 an hour. Not because we like the look of them, not because they went to school for longer than us, because they're supposed to cross the T's and dot the I's. Well, what's happened over a period of time is they've started thinking, maybe it was austerity, who knows? Well, nobody questions these boxes. Nobody wants it. Oh, look, sod all that. We'll just put it from A to D in there, boom, boom. And of course, we've lost all that. Well, that means we've lost the confidence in them. We've lost the confidence in them because, look, we don't know about that system. If we knew that system, we wouldn't employ lawyers. But we had confidence that they were doing something correct, and we were always able to examine it. And we're able now to prove that that's gone. That doesn't exist inside the civil remit, right? It doesn't at all. And we can prove it. And I wouldn't say that to you lightly. And again, 3 years ago, I wish I could have said it to you. Now I can say it to you. So it's very much like, let's look at it. I go to see... Who knows who Derren Brown is? Right, he's a pretty good magician, isn't he? Right? But he's so good a magician. Imagine we went to the theatre and he said, listen, you know how good a magician I am. I'm going to have a pink elephant flying across this stage tonight. Everyone want to see it? Yeah. Well, you know I'm a good magician. Well, I'll tell you what. You know I'll do it. Yeah. Well, look, just give me your money and go home and think about it. Because there's no need for me to actually produce it, is there? And it's the same as if you're going to see Macbeth or something. I'm going to say that for them, right? You're going to see Macbeth and you're saying, theatre tickets. Well, you know Macbeth ain't real. You know the people on the stage are only pretending and acting, yeah? Well, I'll tell you what, just give us your 75 quid and go home and have a dream about it. Well, that's what they're doing to us inside the court system, right? There's no process, there's no procedure, there's nothing. So what, unfortunately for them, they never in their wildest dreams imagined that lay litigants would be able to gain the knowledge that myself and other people, this isn't about me. When I say we, I mean the royal we, because there's a lot of us, and you're here today. We know the score now. And the trouble with them, they've been inducted into the statutory mechanism, not ever thinking that anyone outside that statutory mechanism was ever going to question the process and procedure, because that's where it breaks down. A plus B equals C. If you take out B, it doesn't equal C, right? And so you can always, on process and procedure, take it out at any time. And the reason for it is this. It's very, very simple. which has taken me years to think about, but it was only meeting Mr. Ebert that made me realize it. And I say this like a mantra, because everybody, if it ain't simple, you ain't thought about it long enough. And abuse of the statutory process is a common law offence. There you go. We've got it in one. If they're using any statutory process or procedure against you, if there's any abuse of it, it's a common law offence, because it's operating through common law. And every time that works. It's true. So what we do is we're getting their rules and regulations and we're applying them to them. So my next situation is, what we've been doing is this. In fact, I'll read this to you, and if anyone wants a copy of this, we can get some copies. Again, I'm not very well organised, so anyone's had a court case, we can prove what we're saying. Doesn't matter how simple or how complicated your court case is. If you've got a court case, what they do is, say you've got an argument with the bank, the first thing they do is they say, oh, you've got a complaint. And most people put in a complaint. And you think, well, they're trying to defraud me out of 20 grand or whatever. But you put in a complaint. Oh, yes, we're going to deal with the complaint. And then a few months later, there's no merit in your complaint. You take it to the banking ombudsman. Oh, yes, we're going to deal with it. No merit in that. Then the financial, no merit. And then all of a sudden, you've got 3 or 4 judgments against you, and you're looking like a bitter and twisted individual who can't get remedy. Ultimately, what you should have done at the first instance, or it's easy to say what you should have done, is if someone commits a crime against you, it's a crime. We don't complain about a crime. We report a crime. But what I'm saying about any court cases that any of you got, right, very simple, and it's worth examining. It doesn't cost you anything. It could cost you £1 or something, right? You put a requested notice in, and under their own rules. I don't want to be here spouting rules and regulations but what I'm saying to you is they're not able to support the merit in their position. None of them are. And if you examine their rules, that's where you find the problem. So when we've got these evictions, we've got a wonderful gentleman called Tom Crawford, who contacted us and all the rest of it. And we all got 300 people together. And to Nottingham, we went there one day to stop an eviction on his family home. You know, this guy worked all his life, brought his kids up, he's lived there 25 years, and then he discovered that the bank had changed his endowment mortgage, which he believed he'd paid, and was due 11 grand. Oh, it was changed to an interest-only mortgage, and he still owes 30 grand, and they're trying to get him out of his own house. And 300 of us turned up there and stopped it, and we were on the UK column live, and we did a live thing, you know, which was brilliant, okay? And stopped it. So we stopped that with a common law action, because common law is common sense. That's all it is. Get rid of the word law, chuck it away, and put the word sense in its place, because that's all it is. It's common sense. And we stop it with boots on the ground. So there's 300 people here. Are you going to get in? No. Well, I'll tell you what, I go there, and the reason I go there is because I want to examine the paperwork. I want to examine their paperwork to make sure it stands up to scrutiny. Because when they come around to do anything to you, they need a statutory instrument, because they're operating inside statute. So they come there with a statutory instrument. Well, that's fine. I'm here to examine the statutory instrument, and these people are here to stop any breach of the common law. And they won't give us it anymore. They used to give us it, and then they used to give us fraudulent documents and bits of paper that the bailiffs have printed off their own machines. And I can, again, I wander and I go off at a tangent because I'm just doing this totally off spiel. But you've all heard about Wonga writing solicitors' letters, yeah? Right. It's worse than that, right? Because Wonga are thinking, why do we employ solicitors that we're giving them money to write letters that we could write? That's the bottom line of it, right, okay? It's cultural, yeah? They think, and nobody's going to get nicked for it. So that's what they do. Well, it gets worse than that, because court documents, they know that 9 out of 10 people pay up if they see a court document come on. They might be owe a bill for ages, but the moment a court document drops on their lap, it's like, oh, and they cough up. So solicitors all over this country have been given a stamp, not a seal. And in some cases, they're not given a stamp, they're already on the documents. So when they download them from the Westlaw site, there's already a stamp on it for them. Not a seal, but a stamp. And if they can fool a member of the public into believing that there's a court case, brilliant. Saves everybody time and trouble. They pocket the money. But of course, these greedy so-and-sos, they've been charging court fees for it. So when the 1 out of 10 goes down to the court and asked to examine their court file, under what I've got here, you find some very interesting things. And this is what I'm going to read to you now. So you do a request and notice if you're going to go down this road. Please provide a copy, printout, of all records from the computer database for the number, and you put the case number. This request is made in compliance with my statutory rights. So the statute they're coming to you for. CPR 5.4.2. And again, I don't like using these things, but this is what, apply their rules to them. Supply of documents to parties, including new parties. The documents should be supplied within 48 hours after a written request for them is received. So the moment you go in the court and you drop this document, they've got to give you access to your court file in 48 hours. 48 hours, right? And you'll have some interesting results when you do that. Next section, CPR 541. Supply of documents from the court records. Any party to proceedings may be supplied from the records of the court with a copy of any document relating to those proceedings, including documents filed before the claim was commenced. Well, I found this very interesting when I first got this, because before the claim was commenced, I used to try and go and put notarial instruments, otherwise, well, commercial liens into court. Have you got a claim number? No, well, you can't file it. Well, you can under that rule, right? And 3, right? The County Courts Act 1984, Section 1.2. Every court so held shall be called a county court, and shall be a court of record, and shall have a seal. So there you go, you've got it, right? And you hand that into them. And then in 48 hours, you want access to your file. Now, if you commit a crime against somebody, you get arrested, nicked, and banged up, right? Simple as, right? You know, that's it, right? If it's civil, it's a different process. And we know that basically it's operating, as I said, on rules, regulations, and things that we support and the public have got confidence in. So when you go down to the court and you ask to examine your file, it doesn't matter what it's for, right? If you've discovered that perhaps 5 years ago that your father left your property and someone, a bent solicitor, stole it from you or whatever, right? You can go down and ask for that a decision to be struck out because there's been misleading, inaccurate, and false information. You're not appealing it, because appeal's basically saying, I accept your decision, but I think it was wrong. You ask for it to be struck out based on that, right? So you go down and you make that application. But before you do that, you need to see your court file. Now, your court file has to contain, any civil case has to have essential ingredients. Now, what are those ingredients? Right. First and foremost, you want to take a civil claim out against anybody. You have to fill out a claim/application form. Accepted? Yes, obviously. Otherwise, you're not going to get a claim. That has to have the seal of the court, as per the county courts regulations. So you go down, you make a claim, you support that with an affidavit. That's the second one, or a statement of truth. So your claim form gets supported with an affidavit. And thirdly, and in some cases most importantly, you have to pay a fee. Otherwise, the ingredients aren't there to set the case in motion. So if the essential ingredients aren't there, there isn't a claim. I say I want to send John Hurst to the moon and make a claim to the court or whatever, you know, and I haven't paid a fee. If I pay the fee, they'll say no merit in my case. But if whatever I say, there has to be a fee paid. Unless I've got a fee remission form because I'm on the street somewhere. But there has to be a fee paid. Now, those essential ingredients, claim/application form, supporting affidavit/statement of truth, and a fee paid. So what we've discovered is that solicitors, bailiffs, they don't pay the fees. Maybe they do it at the end of the year. We're not interested. I want to make sure that that fee is paid for that specific case. That's one. Second one is, when you get to your file and you examine it, I went with a couple who've got a business in France and England, and they've been ripped off, and the guy was an aircraft engineer for the RAF, been in the Falklands and been over in Belfast and all that, and he can't believe what's going on over here. He's over in France, his wife's in England, because they can't support themselves unless they split themselves into two like that. And I went to Birmingham High Court, we applied this to them, and of course they give us the file. Well, the file can sometimes be this thick, right, which is what they want. They want to confuse you. And if you employed a lawyer, the lawyer's there going to say, oh, I'm going to retire on this file. You know what I mean? That's what that's about. He sees you coming down the drive, he's thinking loads of money. It's simple. Let's go to the root. The root. Is there a claim form with a seal on it? Is there an affidavit or statement of truth in support? And is there a fee paid? Because everything that's come after, if there isn't, the whole thing never began. And that's what they call void ab initio, void order. The legal profession think it's voidable, not void. But that's where you go. You know, they've got this word, voidable. Oh, it's voidable. No, it's void, right? It doesn't exist. It never happened. They're the key ingredients. So that's exactly where we take them on this. So that form shows a lot. And when you get access to it, you find, well, to be honest with you, I've never been to one and found a straight one. You know, and when Mr. Ebert told me this back a year ago, and of course, people were looking at Mr. Ebert, maybe he's a billionaire who's lost all his money. It was a 40 grand debt that someone claimed against him, and it wasn't even made against him, it was made against another party, and they've just ripped him off. And this has been going on. We're dealing with endemic fraud throughout the whole system, you know, and that's why, you know, I've had £4 million of the properties that they believe they sold for 500 grand. Oh, yeah, some equity in that, isn't there? So, but forget all that stuff. We need to get to the root of these problems, and the root is what I'm saying. Is there a claim form with a court seal on it? Is there a support and affidavit? And is there a fee paid? So, of course, when we started engaging with this, and I started getting people who knew me all over the country doing this and telling people about it, we started getting different results. And we started getting things off a couple of people, which are awesome. And they're called the case man file. And John Earth, my friend over there, the policeman, he'd know it as being the minute sheet in the police station. In the court, it's called the case man. And it's the case management file. And if they give you a printout from that, it reads out like a bank statement. Case created, and everything that's gone on in there. And you can then ask for individual documents and cherry pick it. Well, when you get that, you usually discover straight on that the fee hasn't been paid, because it's been some big solicitors company who they sort it out them later, or don't sort it out at all. Now, don't sort it out at all. It's because when you go right through all these motions, you'll discover, and I've only got 40 minutes, you know, I could probably talk about 4 hours, but I wouldn't bore you all to death. But 40 minutes is all I've got. They're all done in a private capacity. That's why they won't give you the documents. So if I go to Hereford, I've had the court staffs tell me, they're all like that. I said, there's no seal. This isn't, they're all like that, guy. They're all like that. They don't exist. When you've gone into a court, you might have paid against the bank, or if they've paid against you, it's tough, you know, it's game over anyway. You go to that, what you believe is a court, unbeknown to you, these people are operating in a completely private capacity. So there is no seal. There is no signatures on anything. Because ultimately, they don't want the liability of it. Now, Her Majesty's Court and Tribunal Service is supposed to be a service. It's not supposed to be a force, right? So as a service, they're not providing a service, which we can prove in that document. I said to anybody who's got a problem, if they're a little bit on the outskirts, just, hey, look, man, go and check it out. Go on down the court, hand that over, and see what you get. And you'll see that what's happened has been operated in a private capacity against you. So that's where we are with that. And I'm saying this to you now because when we go to evictions, there, as I've said, there are 8 or perhaps 9 now, because they're setting up all the time, regional response units that we, and I mean we, the royal we, have all over this country now. So whatever your area you're in, if they're trying to come for your property, you ring up, or go on to Facebook in a response group in Facebook, and you'll have one in your area, and we will get bodies there and stop that physically. Boots on the ground will stop it. And then what we, or I if I'm there, or a representative of us, will do is examine the paperwork. Because if I come to any of you and said, give me the keys to your car, oh, I've got a bit of paper here, and you're mug enough to give it me, they've manufactured your consent. We get the paperwork. Okay, if you're trying to come for something, and you'll see these bailiffs, see they're useful idiots to these clowns, right? They'll hold it like this. Oh, we don't want to show it you. It's because they haven't got it. if you ever get a copy of it, wonderful. We've got them for liability, but they won't. And so when they come around now, I mean, I was at one in Leicester a couple of weeks ago where we stopped it. It was Tom Crawford's we stopped. And of course, because of the public interest and because of the fact it was all in the news and everything else, you know, and the London Metro said this is what more people should be doing, etc. 300 of us there stopped it. It was a brilliant event because people who aren't perhaps as mentally ill as I am or other people who are involved in it, they get power from going there and communicating with people and realize, hang on, we are on the right track. We're not stupid. We've been ripped off here, yeah? And so we gain power from that. And we gain more power from that than sitting on a computer, you know, interneting all day. Or, oh, I know all this because I've read it. Yeah, you haven't read it. You haven't experienced it. And experience is a thing. And going to these events is a thing. And you see the machine, the statutory machine, the corporate machine of the government and of the establishment can't understand that. Why would these people come here listening to some tinfoil hat wearer like me? Oh, I must be paying you. No, obviously. And it's the same with evictions. Why would people... Well, I wouldn't go there unless I was being paid. Yeah, because you're not thinking, because we're going there because of that. Simple as. And that's why these people have never understood, you know, kamikazes in the war, you know. And I'll just read this to you, because I come across this the other day, right? And I found this interesting. This was written by the chairperson of the court service in 1990. So let's just look back, you know. When we were establishing and this is on YouTube, if you want to check it out. Her name's Brenda Ryan. When we were establishing the court service in 1990, which is a new corporate body, which governs all, manages all of the courts in the state, we had great assistance from Tom as we looked at the concept of corporate governance. Overall, in the institution, as we were intending to establish a modern company with a group. Governance and Tom was a great help as we planned it. And he said, as I say, specifically, a great help on the audit committees and helped us and gave us comfort on our board as he assisted us through the governance of the court service. And I speak to you as chairperson of the court service. And therefore, with the whole concept of the difficulty of dealing with corporations at this time, we, as in the rest of the public service, are suffering from austerity, etc. 1990. The difficulty of dealing as a corporation in these times of austerity, yeah, with the fiscal issues and then also with the ethical issues that we have within our staff, who are absolutely wonderful, and we're coping with this huge cutback. They are the jewel in the public service. Now, so they've known his corporate governance, they've known his corporate courts, they've known for a long, long time. But the only person he didn't tell was us. You know, we didn't get told any of this stuff, did we? Well, we know it now, right? So, and as I say, we can examine them on their court process, on their procedures, and they're stuffed. Because ultimately, and this is what I've been trying to, because when you're trying to put the moral position to people, we know we've got the moral high ground. We know it's fallen apart. And over the last 3 years, the thing is just, it's dead in the water. You know, everybody knows. If anyone doesn't know, then they need electric shock therapy. You know, it's gone, isn't it? But what we have got is, okay, you're coming at me. Whether you, any bailiff, anyone coming at you, give me your statutory instruments. Let's examine them. Because I'm just going to give you the keys to whatever, and it will fall apart at that point. Every time, and I wouldn't say that to you, it will fall apart. There is no law and order in this country. This is the Wild West, but unfortunately a lot of people think it's the gold rush. And most of them are called lawyers, right? And they think it's the gold rush. They get £300 or £400 an hour because of their schooling or whatever, right? Okay, well, unfortunately for them, there's lay litigants in this country who actually deal with the law on a day-to-day basis all over this country, and we'll kick their ass, right? We'll kick their ass all over the place. Now, see what else I've got here. I'll ask the puppet master here. Okay. Oh, right, okay, yeah. Now, on these levels, I'm not going to mention no names, but it's a gospel truth, and you'll probably find the names out because it's going to come to light. One of my court cases recently, because the thing is, it takes time to grind down these situations. So in Hereford, where I'm from, the magistrates' court, where I lay private criminal prosecutions, and where I'm in there all the time, I'm in there more than the lawyers. I've got an understanding with them, and the judge, bless him, right, Cadbury, for all his programmed ed, he's a decent geezer, really, in his art. You know, that's what I always try to take him to. All right? He's operating for the status quo, and And he's the one who once said to me that when I quoted Halsbury's to him, thanks to John and Mike Burke, he said, oh, it says in Halsbury's that, that we haven't got no authority. I said, yeah. And when he came out, he said, look, I might be wrong and you might be right. And ultimately, I might end up arrested and locked up one day. But I'm holding the status quo for now, and that's on tape on the internet. But of course, after someone taped it and put it on the internet, he wasn't very happy with me. So it took me a long time to get around that. But now, he's actually asking me where he can get the power from to do stuff. Because I'm taking 60 people to court with me, and people coming and supporting me and coming to that sort of thing. It shows that the public confidence is in the right of the situation. And it's going on everywhere. So at one of my last hearings, friends of a person who I'm trying to help were friends with a retired detective chief inspector. And he's one of the old Sweeney sort of crew, giving it all that, yeah? So I can relate to these people more better than I can some others due to my background. And he came down, and me and Linda in the morning doing our paperwork, and we usually go around the Weatherspoons in the morning or whatever, and so of course I have a pint before I go to court. And of course I saw him when he came in, because he knew his friends. He's thinking, oh Christ, they've grasped at every straw, and now they look, this geezer, you're drinking a pint before he goes to court, yeah? So anyway, he came in, and I could see he was a little bit, but of course when we went to court, we battered it, we did what needed to be done, and I directed the judge to give me an unless order, which is a great thing, which I can tell you about. And he agreed. And I said, I'll give him 60 days. And he said, no, they can have 42. Because I said, the CPS haven't got the evidence, right? And this is a malicious prosecution and blah, blah, blah. So we won the case. And I got the prosecution through against the bailiff. So when we were around the pub after, of course, he's a different geezer then. And all of a sudden he's thinking, wow, brilliant, Because, he's a detective chief inspector, someone I wouldn't have even communicated with before. And again, now he's got friends who are getting made bankrupt and stuff, who's contacting us. But, so it's great, we've got support from people like that, who are retired from the police, but who can see what's right and wrong. Well, we've got really brave whistleblowers in this country, really, really brave whistleblowers. And I know about the Melanie Shaw stuff. And, rigged juries, is that the next thing? Because if we haven't got the criminal courts, we've got nothing. We haven't got civil courts because they're all fake, right? And they're all false. But if you haven't got the criminal courts, we've got nothing. And there's a policewoman in this country who has been on the sick due to family stuff. And her husband has been following what we're all engaged in. And she's decided to take interest in it. Well, when I had the siege of Bodnam Manor, when they had a helicopter and all the police around it, she came through and stayed with us. And she told me, look, I'm a policewoman, active policewoman. Oh, okay, well, it's not a problem. We're not hiding nothing. Anyway, this lady, and brave woman, she's gone to court last week, and this will all come out, but I'll just give you an up on it. When she's gone to court, she's gone in there and she's asked, like I've asked on many occasions, and Roger Hayes has asked on many occasions to the judges, well, this isn't a court and you're not a judge. Right? Are you on your oath? Because if they're not on their oath, you arrest them under the Statutory Declarations Act 1835, Section 13, for unlawful administration of their oath, if they claim to be on their oath, because they're operating in a matter they've got no subject matter jurisdiction, because their oath is only under common law. If they're not on their oath, then they're impersonating a public official and perverting the course of justice. So when you say that to them, they run out of the room. They always run out of the room, right? And we've done it all over the UK, right? But this policewoman, active policewoman, was gone into the court, and I say court lightly, right? It's not a tennis court, not a badminton court, but it's a court. But there's always a racket going on anyway, put it that way, right? Right? So she's gone in there and, again, filmed them, because it's not a court anyway, so it doesn't matter. And, of course, the judge, oh, come and sit down. Oh, yes, smiling assassin, That's a wolf in sheep's clothing with a sheep or whatever. And basically, she said, I'm an officer of the judiciary, are you on your oath? Well, I don't have to answer that. Well, listen, you're talking about my family home. I think you do have to answer it. Are you on your oath? Who are you? What are you doing here? Anyway, after 3 times, she's ended up getting removed from the premises. So she's gone straight to the police station and filed as a police officer a crime report against the judge, which is very, very serious. Now, because she's been on the sick for a while, previous to this, because she's gained so much knowledge about what's going on, they'd offered her an inspectorship within 2 years. Right? fast track, and she'd refused it. But of course, when she'd done this, yeah, and I applaud her. And when she'd done this, of course, they said, oh, well, you have to get the legal team and all that. So the CID came. The first thing the CID did was went down to the court and talked to the judge. Oh, well, she's probably upset because of the circumstances. We can't be... And the usher there said, oh, yes, well, the judge was upset, you know, and all this sort of nonsense, right, okay? She wasn't acting professional if she was a policewoman. But ultimately, the crime got put through. So when she went, she took a Federation rep with her, you know, which I know John's been, to sit on the meeting. And of course, what she didn't say was that she was recording the proceedings, so they can actually see what had gone on. And this is the truth. The CID, with an inspector there, had said that these areas were too technical for them to possibly understand. And they had to go to the legal services who would make a decision based upon the evidence she's able to provide. And she said, well, it's national. It's going on everywhere. Because she doesn't want the job back. She's had enough anyway. All right? She just thought, I'll stick it into them before I go. So... And by Tuesday, she's going to get this information as much as she can. So we're providing her loads of information because we got masses of it. You know, I mean, masses and masses of abuse of the process for them. But of course, the police are ignorant to this. So, okay. So the police are ignorant. Okay. So what we got to look at is really telling the police. I've offered the police a training course. When I was last arrested, I said within 3 hours I can give you a training course on these matters, right? I can show you what a court seal is. I can show you what a stamp is. I can show you what a receipt stamp is, right? Okay, I can show you exactly what, because Mr. Ebert's trained me, yeah? And if I can, it doesn't matter. Mr. Ebert says, a fraudulent document is a fraud forever, no matter how many decisions have been based upon it. So look at that. Look at the forensics of legal fraud, Mr. Ebert's document, right, okay? And we're all over the UK now. Before, when I talked in Stoke 3 years ago, look, we're not outcasts, right? We're all working together. And what I'm trying to do, and this is what I'll finish on, because I could stand here for the next week, right? Okay, because you know, but I'm trying to get the people. There are people in business contacting us, right? And there are people who live in a bed sit contacting us. We try to do everything for the man on the street, yeah? If there are people involved in corporations and they've got their own business, whatever, they should be supporting the people on the street, sorting our petrol out, sorting stuff out, because we're running on fresh air. I used to be a millionaire, I ain't got shit now, right? Okay, that doesn't matter, right? Because right is might, right? And we're right, and that is the might, and we're all standing together, and, you know, let's get on with it, okay? I'll leave it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.